Hello, solopreneurs. For the last 10 years or more, marketers have been shouting from the rooftop, content is king, content is king. And the majority of businesses out there, we're talking like 98% of the businesses out there, have bought into content marketing. But let's think about this for a minute. It's designed for enterprise businesses, for big businesses, for real businesses. Is content marketing right for a solopreneur business? That's what we're going to explore today. And honestly, a little bit of spoilers, we're going to be talking about who should be doing it, how, and what you can do related to content marketing that actually works for you. Welcome to the Solopreneur Life Podcast. I am your host, Kathryn Aragon, and here at Solopreneur Life, we are all about helping you, solopreneurs and freelancers, launch and grow a six-figure business without overwhelm or burnout. But before we dive in, subscribe. Take a minute now to subscribe to the Solopreneur Life Podcast so you don't miss a single episode. So let's dive in, shall we? Let me first tell you about the tweet that changed my life. And that sounds like oversell, but it really isn't. You see, years ago, I had just begun my business, and this was at the end of 2010. This was the second launch of my business, by the way, because my first launch was back in 2005. But this time around, I kind of knew better what I was doing, and I immediately started a blog. So this was my primary way of marketing my business. I would write blog posts, and then I would share them out largely in Facebook, Twitter, and LinkedIn. Well, one day, and this was about 2 years in, and there's a long story involved in why it took so long. But after taking a short break from social media, I had continued to write in my blog because that gives you so much credibility. But I had decided, you know what? It's time for me to start doing social media again. I had just published an article. I shared it in my usual places, LinkedIn, Facebook, Twitter. And a day or two later, I got a phone call from a very excited person. And he tells me, I saw your tweet. I went and read your article. I love what you're doing. In fact, you're doing exactly what I need on my blog. Would you come write for me? Well, that man was Russ Henneberry. He was the head of content at Crazy Egg, and he snatched me up right away. So he became my best client at that point. And he just fed me all the articles I wanted, and it was such a great experience. But 3 months in, just 3 months later, he got called by, I think, Salesforce. Some big company snatched him away from Crazy Egg. And when they asked, who should we use to replace you? He gave them my name. That one tweet totally put me on the map. It meant that I was now a recognized freelancer, contractor at what I do. And running the Crazy Egg blog actually meant that I got exposure to a whole lot of really important people. People who ran businesses, people who ran big marketing campaigns. And it meant from that moment on, I didn't really have to market myself. I didn't have to sell myself because they knew who I was. I had credibility because I had worked with Neil Patel and Crazy Egg, and they could see a huge body of work with my name on it. Does content marketing work? By all means, it works. The trick is to figure out how it's going to work for you. Now, I'm going to tell you first, I already told you a little bit about how I got started. I started with just a blog and social media. And in a minute, I'm going to explain to you why I don't recommend we do that anymore. But that's how I got started. Over the years, I just immersed myself in content marketing, and that really is my primary offering to my clients now, more because that's what I'm known for than anything else. And so when I get called into a new client, someone who's brand new to content marketing, and they need help getting started, this is what I always tell them. we have to start with your goal. We then need to figure out a strategy to make that goal happen. And then it's breaking that strategy down into doable tasks that, no questions asked, they get done. The tactics. You need a goal, you need a strategy, and you need to know what the tactics are that will fulfill that strategy. Now, that's easier said than done. I mean, that's very conceptual, right? What about you? What about the solopreneur trying to get their business off the ground, trying to get recognized the way I did from that one tweet? I'm going to tell you, if you are a service business or a coach, what you need are clients, right? That's really what you need. Your goal is very simple. In order to grow my business, I need people who want my services, who are willing to pay me well for those services. Well, that's your goal. So what's the strategy? Let's just think outside the box. You can do anything to develop your strategy, but let's go back to the marketing arc. This is the simplest way I know to describe marketing, and it's really what you're going to use to come up with your content strategy. So you need something that gets your clients' attention. So you need to know who your clients are and where they're hanging out online. Then you need to figure out, what can I put together? What can I talk about? What can I do to get their attention? Side by side with that, what can I do to build my own authority? And from there, it's a matter of building relationships with those people so that it's easy and fast to convert them. And it's true, the better known you are, the more reputable you are, the more people who recommend you, the easier it is to sell yourself. Yes, I just got off my third call with a new client, a new prospect, pardon me. And so it doesn't mean that if you do content marketing right, you will never have to have a sales conversation. Quite the contrary. You're going to have plenty of conversations and sometimes multiple conversations. But you're not selling yourself so much as you are helping them understand how you work and the value you can give them, because they're already sold on you. They just want to make sure, are you really the right fit for me? Can we justify the cost of you? Because as you get better known, your rates are going to go up. That's where the selling comes in. That's the work, is helping them understand that, yeah, what I do is so valuable, I would willingly pay you your asking rate rather than hiring Joe Schmo over here who can do it for peanuts. You see the difference? You need to be creating content that gets attention, builds your authority, and then from then on out, it's about relationship and mastering conversion. So this is really what your strategy has to involve. How am I going to build authority? How am I going to get people's attention? Now, I'm going to tell you right off the bat, there is no one-size-fits-all approach to this. There is not one way that if I give you step 1, step 2, step 3, it's going to work. Because it all depends on your business, what you're selling, who you're selling it to, and a myriad of other things. Right now, one of the things I'm teaching in social content is how much the algorithm matters. How much it matters that you are feeding social media platforms exactly what they need. And that's another issue. Content marketing changes. Social media changes. The way people buy and what they're looking for in a vendor, that changes as well. So if I were to give you a step-by-step plan, I promise you in 3 years' time it would be out of date. You have to be good. You have to learn how to start with your goal and deconstruct it well enough that you can come up with a strategy, test it, and refine it until it works for you. So that's what I'm going to help you get started with today. And as I said, when I got started, it was as simple as a blog and some social media posts. And that took my career to the next level. But today, it's not quite that easy. And it's because content marketing has grown up. When I started, social media and content marketing were both in their infancy, so it was much easier to stand out. As I mentioned earlier, among B2B companies, about 98% of companies are doing content. What that means is it's much harder to stand out. Almost all of your competitors are probably on LinkedIn. They may also be on Twitter. You're going to have to fight to stand out. So you've got to be very strategic. You've got to think about what you can do to make sure that you're noticeable, to make sure that when they're looking for someone, you're top of mind. Now, there are a couple of ways that you can do this, but it all starts with, if we're talking content marketing, right? There are 4 types of content, and you need to understand all 4 of these types so that you can develop a strategy that's truly unique to you. The first type of content is SEO content. That lives on your blog primarily. And that's the kind of content I was creating early on, except back then I didn't have an SEO tool. So I was kind of guessing as to what the keywords might be. I used Google Trends and I used conversations in social media to help me figure out what I needed to be talking about. And a lot of what I did was just share thought leadership. You can do that as well. Your blog content can be optimized for search terms. By all means, do that if you can. But not all of your content needs to be SEO content. SEO helps you get found in search engines. But I know for my business, I'm just going to be fully transparent with you now. If what I'm selling is content marketing, I can promise you there is nothing I can do to show up on page 1 for content marketing. Because who are my competitors? When we're talking about media competitors, other people who are blogging on this topic, I'm competing with the people who invented Content Marketing Institute, with Copyblogger, with Neil Patel. These are such well-established brands, and they are so big. There's no way I'm going to be able to compete against them. So I don't worry about that. I write what I need to write. I do optimize many of my blog posts for SEO, but I also just write thought leadership posts. A tool that I recommend if you want to step into SEO content is Ubersuggest. You can use it for free, and that will help you start figuring out the keywords you need to target for your business. Now, the next type of content that you need to be aware of is product marketing. And this is something that, yes, you can use some of your blog content to talk about what you offer and what its value is, how it compares to the competitors. So for instance, I've seen many freelancers create a lead magnet, how to hire a copywriter, how to hire a social media manager, how to hire a developer. What are they doing? This is product marketing as well as sales content, which we'll talk about in a second. They're basically doing a comparison. They're saying, these are the features that you should be looking for. Here are the benefits of those features. And here's, basically, if you're looking for this kind of product, you need to be looking at me. Now, if you sell products, great. If you have a web app, product marketing, the way I just described it, as, let's say, Kajabi versus Teachable. Those are both platforms. They're SaaS products for people who publish courses. A product marketing article would be a comparison of Kajabi and some competitor. Now, you can create that kind of content, but you don't have to. The biggest deal as a solopreneur is just making sure that you are explaining what you do, why you do it, and making sure that you have a system for onboarding your clients. Product marketing is one of those that's really good for bigger companies. I don't really think it's as necessary for us as solopreneurs. That said, if you kind of know those conversations, because I have had people in a sales conversation, why should I hire you over this? In fact, today, the conversation I just had with a prospect was, we're looking at using an AI tool. Why wouldn't we use that instead of you? What makes you different from that or better than that tool? See, that's a product marketing question, and I have to have a ready answer. So whether or not you create content, I want you to think about this. I want you to have answers for why you, why not the other guy? Why you? And what will you give me? How will I begin working with you? so that I can have the most success? You've got to have a system in place for that. You don't have to necessarily build a lot of content around it. Just make sure you understand how to answer those kind of questions. And then down the road, if you figure out that, oh, you know what, I really do need some of this content, your blog. That's the best place to put it. Okay, so we just talked about SEO content or blog content. We talked about product marketing. The next type of content that's really big in the big companies is sales content. Now, I just referenced this when I talked about the lead magnet, because lead magnets are a type of sales content. In bigger companies, if they use funnels, they need lead magnets. They need funnel content. If they have a sales team, they use sales enablement content. And this might be case studies, it might be articles or studies or white papers, things that help the salesperson get someone off the fence and buying. Now, you also need to overcome objections, get people off the fence and get them buying. But you're not going to have this big body of sales engagement content. You just need to have a few pieces that answer questions and help people feel comfortable that you are the right person. So let's say you do have a lead magnet on your website. You need to put it on there. You need to make sure it's something that helps them understand that you are the best person. So talk about your methodology. Talk about a problem that many people need solved with whatever your service is. And then make sure you give them a good solution. Ultimately, more than likely, they're going to want to hire you to implement it. But that lead magnet, it shouldn't be something that everyone in the world wants to download. It should be something that people who are interested in you, people who might buy from you, will download so that they can get to know you better. Now, another thing that is really good for sales content are case studies. So every time you have a really good, you really move the needle for a prospect, get a case study. You need that to help people understand the difference you can make for them. All right, so SEO content, product marketing, sales content, and now social content. This is the fourth type of content, and it is, in my opinion, the future of content marketing. I'm telling you, I have done a complete reversal in the way I approach content marketing. 10 years ago, I was blog first, social media was secondary. Today, I'm social content first, blog second. Why do you think that is? Think about how people have changed, how our culture has changed since social media has come online. New social media platforms are being invented and popularized every day. And the reason is companies have figured out that people enjoy engaging with one another online. So we have Pinterest for people who like pictures. We have Instagram for, again, people who like posting their photographs, who are influencers, LinkedIn for B2B, Facebook for just families and friends, which is also very valuable for your business, by the way. Twitter, all age groups, kind of a random repository of what's going on in your life. All of these are social channels, and that's where your audience is hanging out. Your prospect is on one of these platforms, possibly another one that I didn't mention because there are so many out there. The best way that you can get your message in front of your audience is to be in social media. Now, let's go back to the definition of content marketing. A lot of people try to come up with some fluffy definition. I've been doing content marketing since before it was a thing. It is literally where I have taken my business, not because it was a big deal, but because it is so natural to me. It's where it fits what I've studied, my experience, and I've been doing it for a very long time. Content marketing is nothing more than taking your message to the people who are most likely to buy from you. And that means taking that message wherever they're hanging out. Now, 10 years ago, people were still surfing the web. They were still using RSS feeds to find articles to read. But nobody's doing that anymore. I haven't opened my RSS feed in more than 7 years. In fact, the one I enjoyed using the most got shut down because nobody was using it. So this is not the way to start. You need to get in front of your customers in social media. And that means finding the channel that they're on and then being present consistently. It's really not that hard. And if you need to be on multiple channels to get in front of you, actually, that's what I recommend. As I told you, my 3 primary ones are Facebook, LinkedIn, and Twitter. But I'm expanding into video, which means I'm also on YouTube, and I've been playing around with TikTok. Where do you need to be? That's what you need to think about. So here's what I recommend for solopreneurs today. I told you the way I started out was with a blog, a few random pieces of social media content. Right now, I think you need to find the platform where your audience is. Then you need to become active on those platforms. You need to be connecting with the people who might hire you. Start following them. Start engaging with them. Get on their radar. And I've got a friend who does this remarkably well. In fact, he's on my writing team. He's one of the people who I work with, and he is so friendly and so unafraid to comment on everybody's posts. He's on everybody's radar. And when I needed a writer, let's say a year ago, I was like, you know what? I bet he could write for me. Called him up, and sure enough, he's on my writing team. He's one of my best writers. You can just be present, be friendly, be yourself, and get noticed and start getting hired. It's really that simple, but you need to engage with your audience. It's not, I'm going to start a LinkedIn channel and then just go and I'm going to, what is it called Jonathan, what's it called when you're stalking people? That's the word I'm looking for. You're stalking people. Maybe you leave a like or a heart. I promise you that's not enough, because the algorithm is designed for humans talking to humans. That means you need to be having conversations. You need to be posting your thoughts, your ideas on a regular basis. You need to be engaging with other people's posts by leaving comments. And what you're doing is you're telling the algorithm who needs to see your post. Because of your activity, it figures out, oh, okay, Kathryn always talks about content marketing. So these people out here who are interested in content marketing, they should see this post. I also talk to solopreneurs quite a bit because I want to help you take your business to the next level. So I'm showing up for solopreneurs and freelancers as well. Find your audience, figure out where they are, and start talking to them, not with an app, but as a human. That's going to make all the difference in the world in your ability to get noticed, to get attention, and actually to build authority as well. Now, we talked about sales content, didn't we? That would be a lead magnet. Get a lead magnet for your website. Go find, I recommend MailerLite or ConvertKit. These are 2 really good mailers, email marketing solutions for your business. But you need a lead magnet that entices people to sign up to get on your list. So that's a good piece of content for you to build. And then, if you are a writer, or if you're a writer or do anything related to writing, you need a blog. Because when people want to hire you, they want to see samples of your work. The best samples you can show them are the samples that you've put on your own website. Every time someone is considering hiring me, they go to my website, they look me up, and they read my blog posts. So I need to have a relatively current blog post. It needs to be well written. It needs to be the highest quality I can show them. And whatever my strategy is that I believe I want to implement for my clients, I need to be doing for myself. Too often, we treat ourselves like the cobbler's children. The cobbler's children do not wear shoes because the father is so busy serving his customers that he doesn't take care of his family. Now, that's an old illustration, but it's true. You and I very often will put our clients before ourselves. And your website needs to get the same loving care that you give your clients because it's your portfolio. So if you're a writer, you need to be creating a blog. You need blog posts that people can go and evaluate and go, yes, I want to hire you. What would it take to get you to write for me? If you're a social media person, dig into social content. You need to be doing it regularly so people can see how you do it and what you do. Don't just talk about what you do. Do it. And do it for your own business. So does content marketing work? By all means it works. But you need to come up with a strategy that actually attracts your best clients and makes them beg you to hire them. Or you hire them or them hire you. One or the other. Either way, it's about the same thing. You want them so eager to work with you, they'll do anything. They'll jump through any hoop to get you. Jonathan, what are your thoughts today?
I think the thing that stood out or stands out to me the most, and you've been talking about this for actually quite a long time, last several years actually, is that how content marketing, at its core hasn't changed, but where it needs to exist seems to have shifted, or where it needs to begin. Mm-hmm. I remember there was a movie that we watched, Letters to Juliet or something like that. Was that the name of the movie?
The one with the blogger?
With the blogger. She was a blogger.
And it was Julia Child's cookbook that she was cooking.
And she was blogging about Julia Child's cookbook, yeah.
Yeah.
And it was very early in the whole phenomenon of blogging. And people, like, how can you make money blogging? And I remember people were like, how does that work? Mm-hmm. And then blogging exploded because this became clear that it was going to be a trend that was going to shift how consumers, how manufacturers were going to make themselves connect with each other. And so then everybody doubled down on their blog. But now, as you pointed out, people they're not looking for blogs to read first.
Right.
It doesn't mean that blogging isn't there, right? Blogging is still a big deal.
That's correct.
Right?
And it is. And that's one of the reasons you need to be on social media, because that's where I find the articles I should be reading. And if you do need to be sharing your articles in social media so people can click through and find your content.
Right. But it seems like now that is the result rather than the catalyst,
Let
right?
me explain. Let me dig into that a little bit. There was a day when, I just keep saying this, I started with a blog post and then distributing it was an afterthought. Today, I share my thoughts. The thing that might go in a blog post, I share it on, let's say, LinkedIn first. Then I share a few tweets about it. And from those, I can gauge, do people even care about this topic? Do I need to spend some time writing a blog post on it? But I already have the framework built from my LinkedIn post. So it's a very easy thing to take that idea, flesh it out, and put it on my blog. So notice how I'm sharing my ideas first in social media, whereas I used to share them first on my website.
So it's really an issue of where it begins, not what it is.
That's right. I still am using the exact same channels I used 10 years ago, but I'm using them differently, and I'm using them, as you said, in a different order.
So it's about leveraging the strengths. And this is where, this is actually kind of, in some ways, would you say that this has helped level the playing field? You mentioned earlier that enterprise companies can do things differently. But in some ways, this has leveled the playing field for solopreneurs because we can do social media as well, if not maybe better, because we can be
most
more
decidedly. In fact, many of, I forget that. One of the things that years ago when my business was new, and I really put a lot of energy into blogging and making my website look professional. I always wanted to look bigger than I am, because at that time I didn't have a team. It was just me. I was the whole business, just like you probably are. But because I put that energy into creating a website that looked as professional as a big Fortune 100, Fortune 500 company, I got gigs that I wouldn't have otherwise gotten. The only place I sold myself short was I priced myself too low, and that kind of defied the impression I was giving. If my website looked like an enterprise company, why weren't my prices in line? So there's more to strategy than just publishing content, but it's a great place to start. You put that content on your website, it's going to make you look so credible. People are going to be impressed. They're going to say, wow, look at this person. They know what they're doing. They want to hire someone who knows what they're doing. So always treat your business like a sandbox. And it's like the cobbler's children, right? It's the place where you can have a hypothesis. I believe content marketing is changing. And I did this back in 2005. I believe content marketing is changing. I'm not sure where it's going. So I'm paying attention and I'm playing around with hypotheses. What, is it going here? Is it going there? And I tested my different ideas. Where I've landed is what I'm sharing with you today. And that is social content is probably your first line of content production. It's very, very valuable. And yes, to answer your question, Jonathan, you can do it on the same level as an enterprise company, even if you're doing it solo. Many big companies have maybe 2, maybe 3 people running their content program. That means they're not doing very much more than you. The difference is they have the money to hire contractors if they need to. So what do you need to do? If you've got too much work on your plate, maybe hire someone to help you create a few blog posts or something. You just need to fill out that website and do the work. It's a matter of thinking like a company, not like an individual. And that's the difference.
I think for solopreneurs, it's oftentimes difficult for us to think in terms of, big company.
Yeah.
And, but it doesn't mean that we don't, being a solopreneur, well, your tagline, your tagline for Solopreneur Life is solo but not alone.
Right.
So it's not that we have to do everything ourselves, wear all the hats. It is, we can do things on a bigger scale. We can scale our solopreneur business, but we don't necessarily have to lose sight of the strengths that we have as a solopreneur. We can be more personal. We can be one-on-one.
That's right.
We don't have to be that box, the big box club.
Right.
And as such, it's it maybe requires more strategy, but this is exactly what you're talking about in today's podcast, which is the strategy that we use, where we begin, how do we engage, and it's interesting because one of the prospective clients you were talking with, they were actually asking, do you have a team that's big enough to maintain the engagement?
Right. Yeah,
because big companies, that's hard for them to do.
Well, and I just had dropped, I have Inc. 100 clients, and what they heard was I have 100 clients. And so they were really worried, how are you going to fit us into that? Well, I had to reassure them, no, I really don't have 100 clients. Don't worry about that. But yeah, they're so concerned because in their mind, this is a job that's this big, but it's not. It is so much easier. And I actually teach a strategy I call Spin Social that is really about taking your message everywhere without it taking a lot of time. So that's the strategy I intend to implement with them. So far, it's been working great for me. And it's everything I'm talking with you about today. It's creating content, but making sure it shows up where your audience is in the format that's natural to that platform. And see, again, what is content marketing? It's taking your message to your audience and doing it in a way that they're interested in reading it. It's engaging them.
Another thing that you talked about was, doing lead magnets and things like this. There's still the purpose of driving traffic, right? Yes. That's still part of the purpose of
driving traffic and building your list and making it easier to sell.
And so, and this could be a whole nother podcast, what does your blog or website become less important? But actually you had a prospective client this week who said, we loved you, we saw you on social media, we listened how we learned about you, you were referred to us, whatever. And then we went and checked out your website.
They always check out your website. That's why social media first, but don't forget your website. It's your credibility factor right there. People will actually go and see, oh, wow, this actually, I told you about Crazy Egg. He had already checked out my website, and the first thing he said to me is, your website doesn't look like everybody else's. All copywriters, their website looks this very specific way, and yours doesn't. The reason it didn't is because I understood you need to be distinctive. So don't copy. We need to do a whole podcast on this. Do not copy what everyone else is doing. Make sure that you show up as you. Let your strengths show. Understand what your clients want and speak to that in a way that's just unique to you. You can look at what other people are doing and how they're building their websites, but think like a content marketer. I have a message, and I want to make it easier to get that message in front of my clients so they can hire me. That's all you need to worry about. Content marketing most definitely works, but you need to think like a marketer. And, if you run your own business, you've got to wear that marketing hat anyway. You've got to wear the salesman hat. You've got to wear the lead gen hat. All of these hats. And content marketing can help you fulfill the majority of these tasks. But start with your goal. I need clients. Where am I going to get them? And then figure out what types of content you need to grow your business. So if you are actually trying to grow your business, and hey, if you're not, I don't know what you're doing promoting your business. If you really want to grow it, you need to join us on Solopreneur Life. We have a vibrant community called The Hub, where we take all of this training to the next level. My vision in The Hub is to help you reach 6 figures and beyond. So wherever you happen to be, we're going to take you to that next level. Okay, that's it for today. Be sure to visit me at solopreneurlife.com, and don't forget to subscribe to the Solopreneur Life Podcast wherever you tune in. Join us next week for another smart episode, and in the meantime, stay awesome.